Welcome to the Committee for Oklahoma Prosperity podcast with Mike Mazie, CEO of Trinity Strategic Wealth, former state senator, and Oklahoma Secretary of Finance. Mike talks with public policy and industry leaders about needed transformative changes to make Oklahoma a top 10 state for people to live, work, and retire.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this month's podcast for the Committee for Oklahoma Prosperity. This month, we're delighted to have our friend, radio personality, small business owner, and now candidate for City Council, Eddie Huff, with us. Eddie's been a long part of helping communicate ideas and policies for growth and prosperity in our community. Of course, that's what our organization is all about. And this month, we thought we would focus on some Tulsa-centric issues. Many of you are familiar with our friend Eddie. You might not know that he was a global missionary for a while, and as well as a successful small business owner. So he's always got an interesting lens in terms of viewing both local, U.S., international affairs. Eddie, most importantly, what's going on with family during the summer of 2024?
Well, with my personal family, or the local family, my wife and I, we're empty nesters now. I guess the biggest news, my son is vice president with the Florida Panther National Hockey League team.
Wow.
And they won the Stanley Cup this year, just about a month and a half ago. Yeah, which is, I was praying. They lost to Las Vegas last year, but I prayed, I guess, hard enough to get them over the hump this year.
You think the Lord has favorites when it comes to hockey?
I don't know, but he sure came through this year for us.
There you go.
And but anyway, so we're supposed to go there in a couple of weeks to celebrate in Fort Lauderdale, there where they're based out. It's funny because he didn't even have a background, and when they called him, he's director of operations, a vice president of operations now, they call it, but he was totally a football and soccer guy all his life, and they said, we don't care, we want what you do. So he arranges all of the everything, flights, hotels, food, travel. They're going to Sweden this next year to play a game up there.
Wow.
Against some other team. Yeah, and so it'll be fun. But anyway, so that's the biggest thing for us that's happened this summer. But
great. Well, speaking of summer, you got a big date in just a week from now, August 27th. Is election day for some local Tulsa stuff and some primary runoffs. In your case, you're running for city council. In terms of Tulsa becoming a better place for our kids and our grandkids, why don't you share with us what ideas you want to bring to the leadership of Tulsa?
Yeah, Mike, we've been here 32 years. We came from the mission field. We were with Youth with a Mission for 11 years, almost 12 years. Worked in Europe, in Amsterdam, in the red light district, working with prostitutes and drug addicts there for 4 years. Then ended up in southern Germany, working with the U.S. military, running a book distribution ministry to Europe, Middle East, and Africa, bringing Christian books and literature and music and things. And we would set up these bookstores wherever they would have conferences, and then we had a local store, and then we would preach. And in the middle of that, I did ministry in East Africa, South Africa, but after that, the Lord led us to Tulsa. We had an opportunity to go to either Dallas, Nashville, or Tulsa. I also did Christian concerts, all you name them, Sandy Patty, Amy Grant, DC Talk, even the heavy stuff, Stryper, Petra. I used to be the tour manager for all of these groups and traveled all over with the bands. But God led us here, and what led us here, I felt when I came to visit, they invited me here with Impact Productions, for those who remember Tom Newman Impact. And just driving through the city, it's like I felt this is where I want to raise my children. They were 12 to 6 years old at the time. And that's what we did, and raised them all the way up. And now the youngest is 40, if you can. That's how long we've been here now. And they've all graduated here. And funny, they all graduated in the district from Union High School, but even in Jonas Salk here in the Memorial District, and then for elementary school, and then over at Union. But Tulsa, the school district was good to my children. They've done well. They went from Pepperdine, University of Dayton. One of them is a graduate of the Coast Guard Academy. He's a lieutenant commander in the Coast Guard He's a pilot. He also took a 2-year sabbatical, so he's now also a pilot with United Airlines. He's back in the Coast Guard for 2 more years. When he retires, he's going back to the Coast Guard. Going back to United at that time. And anyway, we're really blessed. Our family's been very blessed to have been here in Tulsa. And we just want to see the best for Tulsa, the city it can be. And excuse me a second, Mike, I apologize for that.
Busy man, busy times.
Yeah, I thought that was taken care of. But anyway, so in 32 years, we've seen a lot of good things. And at the same time, we've seen just a change in the tone and atmosphere. And I've always said, it's funny, it's a lot like Donald Trump. I remember there's an interview with Donald Trump and was Oprah Winfrey from the 80s. I don't know if you've seen it, where she asked, will you ever run for president? And he said, I don't know if I ever will, but if things got so bad that I felt that I needed to, I might do it. But at this point, no. And I've always been that way. In fact, I told your dad often, I'm running from office instead of for office. And this time, I just felt it's time. And one of the things that I feel has called me to it is this thing keeps being resurrected about the 1921 race riot that they've now tried to morph into the race massacre. You know, it sounds worse if it's a massacre than just a riot. And we've got to let it go. You know, in Matthew 7, Jesus said, if you do not forgive, neither will your Father in heaven forgive you. And just in general, in the black community, we've got to forgive. I think I gave you my book a while back, didn't I? That Y'all Have Sinned. And that's the whole thesis of the book. It's about forgiveness. And that one of the things that's really, I believe, holding the black community down is this unforgiveness, and it's festering. It's gotten worse and worse, and now it's gotten to the point where the white community is caught up in lack of self-forgiveness. They've bought into this guilt trip, and every race, be it Native American, Asian, European, every race has done injustice to itself and other races. So we've got to get over this. And so my focus today is on today and the future. We've got to look forward and try to build a better community today and not look back over 100 years.
Yeah. Speaking of today, there's a lot of uneasiness and uncertainty out there, with the economy, the damage that, higher interest rates and higher inflation have caused, that frustration. How do you think Tulsa positions itself, Eddie, to be a great city for job growth, a great city for people to move to as they think about getting away from some of the craziness and the overly radical leftist policies on the coasts? What's your ideas for job and economic development?
I think we have great potential. It's a beautiful city. It has a potential to be even more beautiful city. But as I was trying to, point to in my earlier dissertation, is we're so focused, to me, on the wrong things. I look at my district in particular. We have Woodland Hills, but you look around Woodland Hills, Eaton Square, across the street, we have another old shopping center, had office space, shopping. They're blighted almost. The offices are empty. I remember one of my favorite restaurants in town was Atlantic Sea Grill.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Gone. It was a good one. It's gone. So many other restaurants and TGI Fridays was there. It's gone. Shops, restaurants, things that are all closed down, they're gone. Everything's moved away. Our streets are rutted. Intersections are too narrow. All of these things. We can do all of the downtown entertainment that we want, but if you don't like driving the streets, like I said, when I came, I drove the streets and had the windows down. I still remember this as clear as this morning, thinking, oh man, what a beautiful place, and how this was 1992. This is where I want to raise my children. And I don't get that sense anymore. And that feeling, we've got to restore that. And there's so much griping, complaint, negativity all the time about the schools and education. We want to get rid of the superintendent of education who works his butt off to try to better education in the state. And, all we do, every time you open the paper, every time you turn on the news, every time you turn on the radio, it's attack, 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 instead of support, 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 support. And there's just such a spirit of negativity there. And I believe we're investing in the wrong things. One of the things, my opponent is from the San Francisco Bay Area. She's a San Francisco Bay liberal, progressive. And there are a few other members on the council right now that are just as bad, if not worse. I met one Saturday before last. I could not believe how toxic this young woman was. And I said, oh my goodness, we cannot let our city remain in the hands of these people. And so anyway, I believe the economic future of Tulsa could be very bright, but it's got to take a different direction. We've got to start focusing on more than downtown and the entertainment district. That's it. We keep throwing money at the BOK and the Performing Arts Center and the museums and the libraries and the homeless and the immigrants and things. It's time we focus on the people who work and live outside of these. I think the council's working on an $80 million homeless shelter. Well, as I like to say, what you feed grows. Well, you keep doing that, you're going to draw more homeless. And we're literally becoming San Francisco of the Midwest, and that is not what the people want, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I can drive around town, down Lewis, down Harvard, and there's certainly been, some arterial streets, some major roads that have been getting some repairs. But, to your point, when millions and millions and millions of dollars are going to non-core services, It seems like we're losing our focus, Eddie, on, what do the taxpayers really want? Well, they want good streets, and they want fire and police appropriately funded, and they want good schools. And how do you bring that priority and focus back to the city council, which, to your point, has become more influenced over the last 10, 20 years on these ideas that I consider coming from the radical left of a world view where we need to take taxpayer money and try to solve everybody's problems, and that's not really how Tulsa is going to achieve its potential.
No, I agree totally, Mike. Yeah, it's like we keep focusing on the bottom instead of the top. I remember way back in the Bill Clinton era when he was first running against George H.W. Bush, and they were attacking the trickle-down philosophy. And they really kind of stole but distorted that. It's not trickle-down, it's a flow-down. You cannot squeeze blood from a turnip, is the old saying.
Right.
You can't make money out of nothing. And the left has continually tried to demonize people with money. And the problem that I see it is we're dividing. We've got very wealthy people, but the wealthy people that I see all the time praised in town, but they're always giving money to the arts and to these different things that don't really benefit the lower middle class.
Yeah.
And bring those people up. We're continually feeding people that in many cases can't help society. And what we really need to do is focus on the people, young people in particular, and the middle class, to bring them up. And then eventually things will start leveling out more. I have these theories. It would take too much time to go into them, but it's almost like there's a class struggle to where the wealthy do not want to be invaded. They do not want the middle class to invade their territory, so they are happy to keep the barriers there, so they would rather throw their money to the very poor rather than help broaden that base in the middle class and bring those people up. So,
sure. Well, we all like quality of life enhancements, be it parks and basketball games and musical events and music scene and all those activities that it seems like my 20-year-old kids like to enjoy. But when you start raising a family and you start having kids, you want safe neighborhoods, you want safe streets, you want your taxpayer money going to that sort of thing. Recent conversations I had with friends in the Tulsa Police Department, Eddie, indicate that manpower is still, 150 some off of, what the targets should be for the Tulsa Police Department. There's some various debates about how we could bring some officers from other locales. Should we require everyone to have a college degree or not, even if they say we're an MP for 10 years? How do you think we address getting more cops on the streets? Because there's obviously some nonviolent, burglaries are up, retail theft is up a lot after the passages of State Question 780. So how do we get more cops on the streets?
Yeah, you preaching my sermon there a lot, because as you remember when I was on the radio with Pat, that used to be one of my peeves, the whole college degree for police officers. A degree does not really necessarily mean that you're any better qualified to be a good police officer, especially if you spent 4 years partying. As you know, in my experience, I'm a perfect example. I didn't learn. I didn't learn anything. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's a confession time. I didn't learn much in college except how to have a good time. But you mentioned it. Take an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, even young man or woman, volunteers to go into the military, spends 6 years in the military, comes out of the military, might have been a military police, worked in criminal investigation department, worked in many different, security type fields, have a security clearance, all of this. But if they didn't go to college, they're unqualified to join the police force. Well, how can you say they're unqualified when they have all of this experience and we put this on them? And so I believe that we need to re-look at it. When I started as a farmer's insurance agent years ago, they had the qualification of a degree. Okay. About 5 or 6 years in, they re-looked and rethought all of that, and they started hiring people with different other experiences, okay. Sales experience, whether it's department sales, door-to-door type of sales, and they found they were very successful hiring people with actual sales experience versus people with college degree, because these people knew what they were doing. And I really believe that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of experienced people out there that are qualified to be good law enforcement people, men and women, that we could look at hiring and training if we got off this mentality that they have to have this degree. For some reason, the degree seems to be more of a barrier than an asset.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. And then there's just been this constant enforcement by the educational system, I think, and the media, that cops are evil. The police is evil. And I think what we need to do, when the police make mistakes, we have to call it out. Mm-hmm. I was one to call out a few instances in my time on the radio where I felt the police were out of line, but at the same time, when the police are doing their job, in fact, I was the first one to say a few times when I was stopped, anytime I'm stopped for a speeding ticket, I'll be the first one to say, I'm guilty. Yeah, you're right. You got me.
Yep. How many times has that happened, Eddie?
A few. Let's just wait. I have a heavy foot, okay. But the officers have always been very kind, courteous. A few times, one time I should have gotten 5 tickets because my plates were expired. I didn't have my security verification with me. I mean, they were like, in the officer just started laughing. He said, Mr. Huff, I can't believe. I have to write you up for something. And he ended up writing me a ticket for no insurance, but he knew I had I just left my verification
on the desk in
the office. And all I had to do is show it, but he let me go on everything. But so generally, the police officers are fine people. They're good people. They truly are there to protect and to serve. But when one does something wrong, we have to call it out. But we need to treat them better. It's not all about money. We keep thinking we'll throw more money at them, throw more money at them. But really, we just have to honor them in other ways by making the position an honorable one. It's funny, we put teachers now on this almost divine level, right? We almost worship teachers, every day. Oh, we got to do more for the teachers. But police officer, everybody always talks about law enforcement, but we don't really speak that well, and we're always attacking them for this and this and this. So anyway, I think I would like to look at it more broadly and see what else can we do besides just have a sit down with them. What is really keeping us from recruiting and hiring more officers? And I believe if we got rid of the 4-year college degree, that would be one of the ways we could get more officers.
Okay. Well, the officers and small business owners like myself are, wrestling with the homeless issue more and more. I've got 2 nice buildings, Eddie, over off of Riverside. It's always been, kind of a premier location, but since the pandemic and the knowledge, I guess, that Tulsa's just super generous. The homeless issue has really exploded, or I guess the homeless population has really exploded, and unlike 10 years ago, we have some situations happening, here at my buildings where it's not particularly desirable. We try to help everyone as much as we can, get them connected with John 3:16 or Mission or, Restore Hope Ministries, but it's become, a nuisance. And how do we get a handle on this, in our community with, the mindset that, for those of us, like you and me, I know, sincerely want to follow the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth and help people turn their lives around. What's the right way to address this homeless population?
Yeah. I go back to Dr. Dobson's book, Tough Love. As I mentioned earlier, I worked in Amsterdam for almost 5 years with YWAM Amsterdam, and we worked in the red light district with the drug addicts. Most of them were homeless. We used to have to move them from the doors to get into our building, and the prostitutes. And after a while, you understand that you can't help everybody. They just don't want to be helped. And I remember one young man I was working with, he was a drug addict, and we were offered him, paid for him to go to England to send him to this rehab farm, and we were supposed to leave, and we were waiting to catch a train to take a ferry to England, and I was going to go with him. And just as we were about to leave, he ran out of the office. He just couldn't do it. And I saw him a couple of weeks later on the streets, just a terrible mess. And the reason he wouldn't do it is because he wouldn't not take his drugs, because if to get on the ferry, they would have checked him, and he just would not forego it for one day. And when I saw him again, he was like 1 foot in the grave almost, So after a while, you have to harden your heart, otherwise your heart will be broken, And just having worked in the mission field with drug addicts and being in North Africa and East Africa and seeing the true poverty where people have an excuse for poverty, and then seeing these people, many of them, where it's just a case that they've chosen that, you have to realize that some people just don't want to be helped. This is what they've chosen. It's like Jesus said, Joshua, choose you this day whom you're going to serve. And it's that in life. You have to at some point make choices. And some people just choose. They choose this lifestyle, and they want to prey on people pity, and they will play it until the end. And the more you, as I said, what you feed grows, and the more we feed it, I think it's going to continue to grow. And if we're not careful, we will end up being another San Francisco of the Midwest. And that's what I hope to be able to put a stop to in the city council. We cannot continue to go down that road. We cannot continue to have people and squatters. Eventually we'll end up with squatters breaking into people on vacation. They leave their home, and then we have to fight to get them out of our houses, and you know, this type of thing. If you have an empty office building, they'll occupy it. You can't get them out. It just turns into a real mess. We've seen it on 2 continents, and it's just not pretty. So at some point, we have to take measures. And the old thing, you just have to harden your heart at some point, just as you do with children, right? With your children, at some point, you can't spoil your children. You have to, at some point, it hurts you. I mean, you know, it doesn't feel good to spank or discipline your child, but in the end, you know it's the right thing to do. So that's my position on the homeless situation, and it has gotten out of hand, and the current city council seems to want to continue to feed it. And I'm against that. Well, it's got to stop.
The taxpayer money needs to be dedicated towards, you know, core services, and I think, you know, Oklahoma taxpayers are extremely generous with, you know, wanting to, you know, help people with the safety net that have, you know, run into some tough circumstances in life, but as you said, for our hardworking, you know, Tulsans that are paying an inordinate amount of their money to, you know, federal, state, county, and, you know, city taxes, our elected officials need to focus on, you know, core services and, you know, getting a high level of quality, you know, delivery of those services with transparency and accountability, and that's, you know, what we need from our city councilors. So our time is up for today. Thanks everyone for another great discussion hosted by the Committee for Oklahoma Prosperity. Be sure to share this with your other interested friends, and if you're not already getting the Mazie Minute every week, check out MikeMazie.com.
The Committee for Oklahoma Prosperity is advancing ideas and policy that create growth and prosperity for the people of Oklahoma.